Hi, and welcome back to Launch With Me. This is episode 5, and this is my free series where I am teaching you how to basically go ahead and launch your book alongside me. It's actually a behind the scenes look at one of my programs, which is Everything Authorship. That is a high level group coaching program, but this is like I guess like a light version, like just a free version, where you get to see some of the things that we cover in the program and also learn a bit about how to launch your book. So like I said, this is episode 5, and in this episode we are talking all about launch day events. So this is a really exciting step and something that I imagine a lot of people, sort of look towards. Like I know that when I first launched back in 2016, launch day events was like one of the first things I looked up. I was like, how do I throw a release day party? First and foremost, that was like the number one question I had. And on top of that, a lot of authors think about doing book tours and things like that. And some of them wonder, when is it the right time to do a book tour? So there's a lot of that comes into it as well. So I wanted to cover a lot of different things today that's going to help you get started with this. So the first thing that I want to talk about is publicity and media, because publicity and media can be really beneficial in helping you to plan out your launch day events and actually have them go underway basically. So one thing that I like to do, and I'm actually really good at it now, is send out a press release advertising any launch day events that I do, and in turn that advertises my book, right? So when I first started in publishing, like I said, in 2016, if you don't know the story about that, I'm sure I've covered it in another video, but I basically launched a book and it flopped and a lot of things went wrong. One of the things that went wrong was how I wrote my press release. It was very, very bad. And so there's actually a proper way to write a press release that I cover in Everything Authorship. And if you do it right, then you can actually use that to get publicity around your book and your release day events. I actually do that now and I have a lot of success with it. I've been featured in over 20 plus media and publications just in general, but I also managed to make front page news almost every time I launch a book, which is pretty incredible. And because of that, one of the reasons that happens is because I always tie it with some kind of event, right? So the first time that I released a book, I did what did I do? I did school appearances and I did library appearances, right? So like I planned out a couple of things there, and I said to my local newspaper, because this was newsworthy, it was part of their like local area and things going on, I said, I'm doing this. And they said, oh, we'll cover that because obviously locals will be interested in it. So it was a way to get word out about my book, but also let people know that I was doing events in the area. So this is how it can work for you as well. And just recently, at the time of me filming this, if you're watching this in the future, COVID-19 is a thing in this year, and basically my book came out like right smack bang in the middle of it, and so I was planning on doing like an actual in-person event, but that did not happen, so I ended up doing a virtual release day party, and I ended up contacting my newspaper again and saying, hey, this is how I'm releasing the book during COVID-19, and they thought that was really interesting, so they covered that as well. So what you want to do is look for angles that are newsworthy and can tie back to your book. And something that really helps with this is having a really clear why behind why you write. Even if you just write because it's fun and you love fiction, which is honestly one of the reasons I write, if you can still find a clearer why behind it, you can use that to drive better publicity and actually get more publicity going for your book, because the thing is that books and book releases are not exactly newsworthy, but having a why behind why your book is newsworthy and like having a reason for actually putting your book out there. So to give you some examples, Sarah J. Maas has a why behind her book, and it's not a very clear one. It kind of changes a bit, but if you look into some of her press stuff, you'll notice that she says that like she likes to write certain types of characters, and she's tied a why around like what she likes to write. And then you also notice that John Green, which is a bit of a different example, his recent release, which I mean is a few years old now, but it was Totals All the Way Down, and he talked about how he struggled with mental health and how his book also explores that, so it was tied together, and that was newsworthy because he was sharing his own personal experience. So there are ways that you can make it newsworthy if you find a clear why and you really hone in on that. So I really want to encourage you to come out and find a strong why behind your writing, tie that to a press release, and see if you can tie that to a release day event, which is really going to help to propel things and get things in motion for your book when it comes to release day. So another thing I want to touch on is libraries. So I did mention that I did some events at libraries when I did my first book release. And the thing about this is that libraries can be really, really helpful. So libraries, because, they love books and they love authors and they love anything that brings people in the door to their library, seeing as libraries are kind of like, with social media, they're not as popular anymore. my library got right behind helping me. So when I went to them and I said, I want to do an author appearance, would it be possible to do a workshop, or would you be interested? They said, we will help you. They did marketing, they catered for me, like totally free. And they also got me into school. So they used their connections to get me to do events in other places. And they basically said, this is what we're going to do. Are you able to take on this many people? And I was like, yeah. So go talk to your local library, because as you're in like that home base area, they would be willing to help you, and they can be really, really useful if they have the right connection. So it's worth just going to talk to them. And even if you have a local indie bookstore, they might also be willing to help you as well, depending on what they might get out of it. So go and talk to them and see what you can work out. Those are my greatest tips for you in regards to planning release day events. Now, another thing I want to talk about before I wrap this up, because we're talking a lot about real world events here, is also the virtual release day events, right? So like I said, I've also done virtual release day events. I've done quite a few of them, and they can be also just as powerful. So just because you don't go and do something in real life doesn't mean that you can't do something really epic online. Now, another thing is that release day events can be really, really powerful because you actually save a lot of money doing that. You virtually don't have to spend anything if you don't want to. And they can also be really powerful if you don't have an audience. So what you can do, if you have connections, which are like, you know, maybe other writers, other authors, maybe you know another writer who's a bit more, I don't know, established than you can invite them to collaborate with you. And this is something that I did when I started out. And this was amazingly helpful, because what it did is it brought other audiences that I had not reached yet to my audience, and some of them stayed after the release day party as my audience. So it can be really helpful so that you can cross-promote each other's books, and that way the other authors get something out of it, but it also adds a lot of depth to your party because you have other people guest hosting and talking about other books to make it more diverse, right? So something that I recommend if you're going to do a virtual release day party and collaborate with other authors and have them come on and do like a guest slot is to try and have a theme, right? So most recently I did a theme for my virtual release day party. I did a theme around fantasy, royalty, magic, that kind of thing. And I chose books and authors that focused in those genres to make it more niche so that I'd attract a very niche audience to the party that had an interest in all the books that we were talking about. So it was a bit more, you know, like the right audience. Like the first time I did one, I had like an action book, I had I don't know, like a fantasy, like a magical realism book. I had a lot of different books, and so I had a lot of different people coming in, and that can be fine. They, like, the same person can like multiple genres, but it made it very difficult to get my marketing down because there was a lot of different people with different interests there. So it can be really powerful to have a theme around your virtual release day party as well. So rather than me recap all of this here, I actually have a really great training. It's just on virtual release day parties, and it's completely free, and I'm going to link it in the description box below for you. So basically this is a free training that I did. It's like an actual slideshow kind of training. So I walk you through how you can do a virtual release day party, what to do at the virtual release day party, and all that kind of stuff. So if you're interested in learning more about that, go ahead and check that out. It's down below, and I think it would be really valuable for you guys to check out, because especially as a new author, if you're on a tight budget, if you can't find any success trying to host something in real life, you should definitely give this a go, because you can have amazing success with it, and it can really kickstart your readership if you're really struggling to build that. So let me know if these tips helped you. Hopefully that they did. I don't think there's anything else that I had to talk about today. I'm just checking my notes. So that's all I had to cover. Hopefully you got some great tips from that, and I will see you guys in the next and final episode where I'm going to be talking about what to do in your launch week. Bye!